Hi everyone, I can't even get the name of the video out without laughing because I screwed up. Anyway, welcome to Aquascaping on the Fly. I'm Anthony, your host and content creator, and don't freak out. You've been watching videos probably about the Rainbow series, and my hair is short. Yeah, I filmed a lot of your videos up front, and I have been growing my hair out in the meantime. So it's, for some of you, it's been more than a month since you've seen me the way I am right now. So, and I'm putting your videos out because sometimes, especially during the holiday season for me as a flight attendant, it's very hard to get content out during holidays. So I pre-filmed a lot. That's why when the Rainbow series was able to actually finally get started, I was happy because I was able to film those out right away and then stagger them 1 week at a time so that you have a dedicated video coming out for the channel every Saturday. So it's something you can kind of look forward to. And while we're on this subject, I want to say a huge thanks to my FlyScrapers and my comments. You guys are amazing. You really do rock. You have no idea what it means to get your comments. Your comments are always full of love and information, and it's such a beautiful environment that we're creating on the channel that I'm so proud of. So please keep that up. And for those of you who are new and you don't know what the FlyScrapers are, all you have to do is join the channel, subscribe, and that's it, and comment on some of the videos and join the learning process here. Because right now, you know, I did produce a video where we technically did have our first anniversary, and I thought, okay, with that kind of that theme in mind, I thought I would do something that was based on the best practices of what I've seen in the channel. Because for those of you who haven't watched the videos from the beginning, aquascaping was a gift to me from the divine, or whatever you call your higher power. It was a feed that was on my television when I was remodeling the kitchen here. I couldn't see the television, but I could hear it. And I heard about it, and I was confused, and I got up to look, and it was a done deal from that moment forward. And so now I have 14 tanks later, and it's just 1 year. Can we say OCD? Yes, we can say OCD. As an artist, I get inspired, and that inspiration urges me to build a tank. And this channel, I like to focus on giving you the nuts and bolts of everything. I like to forage for as much of my materials as possible. I get my tanks on sale, and I do no technology. The only thing I've got running in any of the tanks is a little 3 to 5 watt fountain pump. It is only there to create a current in the water. And I have seen where the plants and the neo shrimp that we're keeping in the tanks that are older love it. It is amazing to watch how they will love to even swim against the current. It's like they're just having their best play day. So that being said, I thought to start it off, let's start with the basics. So if you're, like, one of the things we talked about on the channel a lot is my experiences here is I want to educate the public on aquascaping as a hobby is magnificent. No matter what kind of issues you're having in your own personal life, everyone knows that I'm speaking to right now. If you have a tank in your home and you come home from whatever kind of day you've had, you can just look at your tank and de-stress immediately. Why do you see so many people have tanks in their living room that they can sit and watch instead of watching a television? Because it's therapeutic. It just puts you in a very balanced Zen state of mind, no matter what happened outside your four walls. And I believe in that 1,000%. Also, there's a lot of research out there that show that anyone that has any type of brain trauma, a lot of conditions that are dealt with, like on the spectrum, give that person a tank and watch the difference. It's amazing. I've seen so many videos about that. So what I like to focus on is if you know someone, if you're the adult watching the video, and you know someone in your life that could benefit from it, or if you want to share this hobby with someone younger, my channel is really more about that type of a person, not the one that's going to go out and buy everything and spend $1,200 and get it all set up and be beautiful, flawless, and done. No, we're starting from ground zero, and we're going to be the bargain hunters, and we are going to be the ones that do our research and really enjoy each step of the process. So my first takeaway is don't rush your process. You need to start with, what's the purpose of the tank in your life? What type of theme do you see with the tank? Does it have an overall aesthetic that you want to achieve? What's your idea? What type of an ecosystem are you trying to create for these plants and livestock that go into it? And even with that, let's talk about, are you talking like right now? I'm still only in the neocardinia shrimp phase, because I want them all breeding successfully before we introduce any other livestock in there. So if you're talking about shrimp, then you really need to get your water parameters under control pretty quickly, or you'll have what happened to me, which you'll have a lot die off because of the water parameters. If you're talking about no shrimp and fish only, that's a little bit easier because a lot of fish are much hardier than shrimp are. So determine what the purpose of your tank is and what aesthetic you want. And when you're doing your research, especially about your fish, look into the zone that creature swims at. Is it a bottom, middle, or top? Because you might want one of all three in your tank to create a community tank that will look amazing. So the first place we need to start is at the very beginning with the tank itself. Now, you guys can see I'm showing you my original setups here. You're looking at the Trinity series on top, which are 10 gallons. And then here you're looking at the Tree of Life. And the new one, which just has not even had a video out yet, so I'm not even going to give the name away in this one. But you're looking at the Tree of Life here, which was my Irigumi-styled aquascape. The reason why I'm putting the camera so far back is I want you to see all the tanks, because we're going to talk about them specifically. But also, I want you to take notice of the Tree of Life. In this style, you're supposed to create something that's perfect from something imperfect. Now, my imperfect is the dead tree. You assume it's dead because it has no leaves on it. But when you look closely at it, if you zoom in, you see there is a lot of green emerging from the base of the tree. So the tree is being reborn. And in the style that I'm trying to mimic, normally there's a foreground plant that covers the entire substrate area. So for me, it's this Althornaria rosifolia mini, and it's got this nice pinkish hue to the leaves. And the reason why I'm showing it from a distance is when this has been planted twice now. So I have a little bowl over here that's called the Pink Lady, and she only has Rosa in her. And I chop them down. It just gave them a haircut, and then I just replanted some. I stood back and I'm like, okay, it's getting the effect I really want now because I want that full carpeting look. I leave the front bare for a reason. That's where I get to do a lot of the viewing on the shrimp, especially the babies. But I just want to point out, it can take you a while to get your aesthetic right. So don't rush that phase. Don't feel like you're doing something wrong. Give your plants a chance to adhere to your water, and just don't freak out if you don't see the growth right away, because it may not happen right away. For me, it was about 3 months until I could see all my boosts started doing very well. And the Rosa plant here always does well. The problem I've been having going back and forth is that I put more gravel in than I should have. I put the gravel in as a topper and I love the look of it, but it makes it a lot harder for planting in it because the gravel layer is so thick, and these roots have a tendency to grow right at the very top. So they're not getting down into the substrate layer where I have a lot of my root tabs at. That's just one takeaway there. But let's start at the size of the tank. Now, you know, on the channel, I have tanks that range from 2 gallons, which is brandy, to 2.5, which is Pink Lady, and then a 3-gallon bowl, which is called 3G. Now, if you're wanting to start out, be careful about going that small because it is a lot harder to get your water parameters correct because it's just more difficult. It's more challenging. And now that I have those small ones, and then my 10 gallons, and then my 20 gallon, I can tell you wholeheartedly, if you're thinking about an entry level, well, and besides that, the ones you're not even going to see today is the Rainbow Series. They're 5.5 gallons, and they're just as temperamental as the bowls are for getting the water parameters correctly. It's way easier to just get a standard 10 and go from there. You could even do a 20 if you envision a larger hardscape. Now you can tell the difference. I use 3 10s to create a collage, one vignette into 3 separate zones. So you're seeing basically one body of water, but they're all connected. And I like that effect because it focused me on, I had a beautiful piece of hardscape, 3 of them that I wanted to use interchangeably, and I wanted it to tell my story. And so that's what I did with the Trinity series. So getting back down to how are we going to source our tanks. So you guys know that I don't pay full price for anything. I wait. PetSmart, honestly, is the cheapest place in where we are in North America here to get any tanks. Yes, you can find some online that will be drastically reduced. Like I'm talking a $10-gallon tank that's going to be about $5 to $7, and then there's a shipping charge. But guess what? You read the fine print. If it breaks, you have to get it replaced by the shipping company, which is not going to do it. It's basically a scam, but you can find vendors out there that will ship it, but they're not going to be responsible if it breaks, and they don't replace it. And no, you can't go to a physical location to buy the tank at that price because they never have them. It's an online only. So to me, I'm just going to call that out like it is. I call that out as a scam. That's a full-on scam. Who knows if they even ship it? That's my question, because every review I would read about there talked about it came in broke, came in broke, came in broke. Okay, maybe they're shipping broken ones to start with. Who knows? You can't tell the difference because you don't know. You weren't there for the shipping. So you don't want to get the tank shipped if at all possible, unless you have connections to a wholesaler. But to be connections to a wholesaler, you have got to have a business. So if you're just an individual person like I am, you've got to rely on finding sales out there. And that online sale that everyone posts a lot on Facebook about is the Walmart 50-something gallon, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't exist. It does not, trust me, it does not exist. I travel all over the United States. Every place I go, I will check. No Walmart ever has that tank. And it's never even online to where you can buy it online. So that's another scam. You're going to have to really look at what you can get locally. And so the first place I always go to is my thrift stores. My bowls came from my thrift stores. The bowls I use, every container I have used in the terrarium hobby, all came from a thrift store. And I have bowls that I could still use with these to make other tanks that are bigger than 2 gallons. But here I waited until PetSmart did a 50% off sale, which they do periodically. And I also waited until it was a 50% off sale plus an extra 20%. So I saved big time on the pricing of my tank. So my 10 gallons, I think, were $14. And then this one, I was able to get this 20-gallon long. This one came in at like $28. So the tanks are very, very expensive. They've gone up since, of course, like everything has. My 5.5 gallons that I bought now are the same price as the 10 gallons were. So all the tanks have gone up a little bit. So if you watch it and get the, it's an online price, and I suggest you pick them out in the store yourself. You can go in and then they'll have them saved for you, but you need to look at them and inspect them just to make sure they're okay. because I got 5 for the Rainbow Series and I had DoorDash deliver them, and then I had to take 1 back. So to me, it's better if I just go in and take a look itself. So with your starting point at getting like someplace like PetSmart, and I've not found any place any cheaper than PetSmart so far. No place. Like Petco's way more expensive for the same type of product. Now, a lot of people aren't going to like the fact that my tanks, yes, you do see the seam on the side, and I do leave the black band at the top and the bottom, and you guys know why. It's because it protects the bottom so that there's no pressure point. The top, I use it because a lot of my lighting is up there, but also the tanks that have plants coming out of them, I use that to adhere the plant to it. So it has something structurally to put there, so I don't have to put one of those plastic containers or make something to hold the plant to the top of the tank. It's already there, it hooks just right to it, and it's amazing because I can use a paper clip if I want. And so I love that. Plus, my cording, to hide some of the black cording, because the rim is black, I can tape it along the backside to where the cords don't show as much. So for me, it's PetSmart. Leave the banding on there because I use it. And especially like in the Rainbow Series, I put the light bar, the light strips that I'm using, straight on top of the tank. I can take it right off. I can put it right back on. It actually fits perfectly for the tank size. So that's one thing that I love about these, is that for the lighting that I'm using, which is full spectrum with this lighting here, this is all on one timer. One timer that's built in to the light itself. And it has, there's 6 and then another 6. So this is actually 2 sets of lighting, and for a set of 6 with the timer and the cords, a ton of cords that you'll never use, it was $35 on Amazon. I don't know where else you're going to spend that low of a price tag to put full spectrum lighting on your tank and have it something like this where it's elevated so that I can grow plants out of mine. Now, if you're not wanting to grow plants out of yours and you want to do a bar light, that's fantastic. Just make sure you try to find something that my rule of thumb is I buy most of my stuff off Amazon. It has to at least start with a minimum of 4 stars. I don't do anything less than 4 stars. So I start from there, and I do read the reviews, and I also post a review under this channel so that people will know, okay, I literally am buying this to see what it's like, and then I'm posting my review. Okay, so now we talked about the tank. And with your design aesthetic, are you going to do soil, aquasoil, sand, gravel? What are you going to put? All right, so in all my tanks, my gravel, my little boulders, my hardscape, my sand, I did buy play sand once, all comes from Mother Nature. So I prep it all. Yes, do I get GH creep up? You bet. I do. So that's one thing you got to be careful of, because I'm not buying that super high-end, gorgeous rock that goes into aquariums, because that cost a fortune. And especially if you're getting the hardwood that they sell that, comes from Taiwan or Vietnam or those places, to where it's beautiful, smooth, looks amazing underwater. Okay, I don't have that either. I'm not paying for that. I go out with Mother Nature and I ask for guidance, and I always find something I need. Now, I don't know if that'll work with you, but it does with me. I put out a very special video on when I was trying to find gravel just for the Rainbow Series, and that blew me away that I found exactly what I needed. So for me, I prep it. So I'm cleaning it. I rinse it off several times, and then I clean the rocks with the scrubber brush, and then I boil them. And once I boil them, then I clean them again. And sometimes they get 2 boils, depending on where I found the rocks at. If I found the rocks in water, I'm going to do 2 boils. And somehow, even after 2 boils, I still managed to get snails. Snails must be indestructible, because boiling them didn't kill them. And they're in all my tanks now, so you just have to kind of like deal with it. But so my hardscape all comes from nature, and I just do it respectfully. I go into a lot of storm drains, landscaping trash, because I know where there's where a few landscapers will dump some stuff, and I've always find really cool stuff there. Or in one of our local parks, it's remodeling and putting in roads. I just go through there once they do a brush hog and see what they've kicked up that I could use as wood. So even my larger pieces, like the one here for this tank that has no name for you yet, that came from a foraging. So all my stuff is foraged. I don't buy anything like that. So for you, just be careful. You can use forage from nature. You just have to prep it really well. And that means doing an extensive cleaning. There's a hydrogen bath you can use on some items if you think you're going to bring something in, you know, that may have some type of fungus or something on it that you don't want to put. Because we do have, here in Texas, we have several plants that are native in our water that you can put in an aquarium. Every time I've tried them, though, they haven't grown as well as I've seen them out in a regular body of water. So I don't have them in my tanks any longer, but I did experiment a while with them. So that gets us to the point now with the aesthetic. So don't fret over this, because when you stare at a blank tank, you can honestly, it can be overwhelming. So now on your checklist right now, you should say, okay, so let's get our tanks on sale. Let's get the family or whoever you're with, or if it's just you by yourself, like it's me by myself, let's go out into nature and let's do some foraging. Okay, see what you can find. It may take several trips, because like to get rocks and gravel and all that, it took me several trips to do all that kind of stuff. So I started stockpiling things that I found and would prep it and was putting it in tubs. And I have tubs under here that I keep everything. So that way I have kind of like an inventory of things I can use already to use into the hobby. Okay, so now we've gotten you to that stage. Now, your soil, that's a big thing, all right? So I'm using Aquasoil. These three top tanks, the Trinity series, originally did not have gravel on them. I just had Aquasoil. And almost everyone has seen my videos on how to grow dwarf hair grass. Actually, if you Google how to grow dwarf hair grass, I think my video is one of the first ones that pops up. And I grew hair grass in Aquasoil in tubs and had incredible success. But the Aquasoil was in such a tiny little layer that the plant had no option but to stand upright and to send runners out and just pop right up. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. Beautiful. I cultivated so much hair grass, put them into these tanks, and it was a disaster. The Aquasoil rolls around so bad it kept dislodging and killing the dwarf hair grass to where there's no dwarf hair grass in my tank. I had enough to cover both of these tanks, and I did, and it all ended up coming out. It was so frustrating. So I went to that trouble of growing it all out because I only bought one little thing of hair grass, and I showed how for like, I think it was $16, it turned into this big, huge tub of hair grass. And so everybody just loved it. And I was so proud of myself until I put it in and it just rolled around like crazy. And it never could adhere, so it never would grow. It never could develop a secure root system. And so that had me get to the point of rescaping the entire thing. And now another thing I want to talk about is your stem plants. Be really, really careful when you plant those, because I try to get them in there enough to where they stay, because mine have a tendency, maybe it's because I have the pump in there, to where they come out. And like my jungle Val, which is basically, there's a little bit in here, most of it's in here, and then a little bit right there, has never really done anything. And it's had root tabs and another brand, and now I'm starting a third brand to see which one works the best. But it hasn't jumped up and started growing like crazy. So I'm kind of disappointed to that. But I like to experiment, and I have had really good success with other plants. But if you're going to do the Aquasoil, what most people will do is put down some type of a root tab on the base and then put the Aquasoil on top of it. And then you need to put a topper. So you could do sand or gravel. I used two types of gravel here, a very fine little gravel that would fill in the little gaps of the Aquasoil, and then a little bit bigger gravel to just go straight on top of that, because the shrimp absolutely love gravel and rocks. They love it. All my tanks that have them, they love it. So that's why when I forced myself to do the rescaping of the Trinity series, I put the gravel in there, because I knew they were going to love it, because I watched how they were doing in the Tree of Life. Tree of Life, they're just in it, playing around it all the time. And the smaller pieces are better for shrimp because they can kind of crawl all around it. So your gravel is kind of important as far as if you're going to keep shrimp. It gives them something to have to play around in and eat and feed in, and it also will hold your plants down. So the takeaway there is you can do the Aquasoil. If you're going to plant something in it, make sure that a lot of plants do not like to be moved, because if you move them, it's going to mess them up. And just be careful about putting a stem or a root feeder into it, because if you get it too deep, it's going to basically suffocate it. And my takeaway to this is I do a variety of plants until I find out what I'm really good at. And I'm really good at boost, and I'm horrible at gluing though. I have one tank that's got glued stuff in it right now, and I can show you up close how bad it looks. But boost, give it 3 months. It will start to attach itself. Moss will do the same thing. You can look here and see this is Christmas moss, and you can see my Christmas moss is growing straight up. It's not floating, it's growing straight up. It attaches itself to a point. And this pump that's in here is the same size as these, so you don't see the water action that you do. It's very, very minimum. I mean, if you guys got up and really magnified this on your cell phone, you can see where the rows of plants here, the leaves are barely moving compared to like the water at the top of these. I love it because it gives a ripple effect. That's another reason why I like it. But that could be a contributing factor to some of it. But I read where a lot of aquarium plants do like water movement. It's part of what's natural to them. And I know the boosts love it because it helps them to attach themselves to whatever foundation they're on. And I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it in this tank where I planted them like little, they were right at the very top. They all just touched the top of the bird on a wire limb, and you can see them now. They're all standing straight up. They're not moving because they've attached themselves to it. And you see the same thing like the Anubias golden here on the turtle, and the same thing in Adam and Eve. They attach themselves, so you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to glue them if you don't want to. I do a lot of wedging. I will wedge a boost or an Anubias into a crack, and then it usually will, that's where hopefully it will stay. If it stays there, then it's going to be fine. But once it attaches itself, that's when it's going to start doing its growth period. Like I have a tiny, tiny little pinto white on the turtle, and it took it just now, a month ago, started detaching itself and really has started to take off. It put 3 leaves on at the very same time, which is amazing for it because it's the small variety of that plant. It's really up there as like a little crown on the turtle. So that kind of gets us to the point now. Okay, so we've done the tank, we've got your substrate, we've talked about your hardscape. Let's talk about your lighting. So I kind of touched on this, and I want to show you really quick. Oh, and I would pick up the one that doesn't have it in it. This is what I'm talking about. This is a light strip. Has a connection at both ends. That's everything up through here. They're all connected, and I'm using these also on the rainbow. The one tank that doesn't have this is Blackfish, which is very disappointing because Blackfish needs this lighting, because Blackfish just has wires showing everywhere and it drives me insane. But I told you the price already. I was getting these for $35 from Amazon. I've never had any issues with them. And the set I just bought, I'm also using them, you can't see it off camera, for my terrarium stand that has 4 shelves. And I've got them just placed discreetly at the top of the shelf underneath, and then it shines right down on the terrarium I want to provide it light to. It's also around my fireplace for my terrariums that are over on the fireplace. So I'm using it everywhere, and it works really, really well for me. And it has, I think it has 4 light settings. Right now you're seeing this half power, and half power will grow blackbeard algae. So I generally have to keep this at a 1. I turn it up whenever we're filming so that you can see into the tanks a little bit better. But this lighting is really versatile. I don't like a bar light because it gets in the way. You can see every tank pretty much has something coming out of it. And a bar light would just mess me up because it gets in the way of the artist's interpretation of what they're trying to create. So I'm trying to create not just an ecosystem, I'm trying to create a theme. And my tanks have a story to tell. And part of that story is the artist's interpretation of what we're trying to build. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. That's about as fast as I can get that out because I could talk about that forever. So we have, okay, now you've got you to the point where you have your lighting. What goes next? Water, my children, water. Now, fans of the channel know I think I've already got 4 dedicated episodes, 4 or 5, on Silent Shrimp Killer, because what happened? Anthony was using water out of his tap, and I was just testing it for the basic. I was so focused on pH in the beginning, and I was not testing for GH and KH. We had in the very beginning, you guys that watched it from the beginning, you'll remember I had snowball shrimp in here, and I had orange rillies in here. Okay, orange rillies all died, snowballs died, Amanos were in this tank. Okay, Amanos jumped out and escaped, except one, which is now here and has made this one is home. Tree of Life. This was full of ghost shrimp who pretty much ate each other. Oh, God, that was a nightmare. So my first set of water was just disastrous because I had 2 tanks completely die out because of me. I went to, one of my commenters said, have you tested your GH and your KH? And I was like, what? Oh my gosh. That started me down Alice in Wonderland's hole in the ground. I mean, oh my God, it was really, really, I had to do a deep dive because that's when I figured out that my city contains chloramine, not chlorine. Chloramine can cause death. And a lot of aquatic animals, because especially neo shrimp, because it burns their eyes, it eats their intestine. I mean, it's just horrible. And I cannot believe I felt so bad about what I had done. I really did. Did I cry about it? Yes, you're darn right I did. When I lose a shrimp, it affects me because they're like my babies now. And so I immediately started doing research. I could not afford to buy water. So I invested in a reverse osmosis system, and it was $100. I got it off of Amazon. It had very good reviews. But the week it came, the first question on its list was, is your water treated with chlorine or chloramine? That's how I found out I had chloramine. I went to the Water Board's board website, and I couldn't see anything on there about it. When I went there specifically and Googled chloramine, that's when I found it. And I was like, oh my God, that's why I've been having all these deaths. So immediately I started redoing all my tanks with the RO water. And I thought it would be enough just to put RO water in and the numbers would balance out. No, it does not work that way. You have to re-mineralize your water. So I'm using the salty shrimp method, and that was working. I was getting in the replacement shrimps. I have been getting, all of my tanks are breeding, and they're breeding naturally on their own. And that's been fantastic because then I know that my parameters are okay. And I'm pushing the limits on GH. GH are sometimes above 10. And for Neo shrimp, they say the absolute best parameters is if it doesn't get any higher than 8. Well, mine gets to 10 to 12, but my shrimp are not dying. They're still breeding, so that's good. But I try to keep it below that. So what I do now is, and I've been logging in, I'm trying to figure out at what time frame my GH is really jumping up the hardiness level. Because I know that because I'm using locally sourced gravel, rocks, and hardscape, it's leaching into my water column. Because normally when you do your top offs, you top it off with pure RO water. You don't put any minerals in that because the minerals, when your water evaporates, your minerals stay. Minerals don't evaporate. They stay in your water. So generally your minerals would go up. Then if you added more RO water that's been remineralized, it would just keep compounding until your numbers go higher and higher and higher. So I'm at the point now where I'm doing a water change out every 2 weeks, which is kind of hard for me in my schedule. And what I'm doing now is, like, I'll be testing today for GH and KH and TDS only in these tanks here, well, except this one, these tanks here, to see where the GH and KH are right now, because I'm trying to track. At 2 days here it was, this will be at 4 days here it is, so that I can see, do I need to go, oh, and I was doing a 20% water change. Those of you who want to know. So 20% water change every 2 weeks. It wasn't quite enough. I'm still getting over 10 to 12, so it wasn't as high of a number. Now the bowls require more than that. I have to do 50% of that water out and then put just pure RO water in there to get them to balance out. But I have breeding shrimp in there too. So I think the shrimp are more hardy once they're in your environment. The reason why Neo shrimp kind of get a bad rap about being really sensitive, it's really the transition stage when they come into your body of water from where they came from, or when you do a water change. That's why everyone says do small water changes. Well, I just upped mine from 20 to 30%, and I moved all my little tape markings. For me, it's super easy now. My water changes, I was always flooding the place up. I never have to mop. I always say that I never mop because all I need to do is a water change, and I'll be mopping that day because I always spill water all over the place. I'll fall asleep when I'm doing a water change because I'll be watching something on TV and I'll nod off and I'll wake up. Oh my God, my apartment's flooded. It happens all the time. Since I've gotten to a higher pump to pump water back into the tanks, now the water that's coming out and the water that's going in is almost at the same rate. So my water changes are a lot faster now, which I love about that. And it's something easy that I can do here. So I'm going to do a video. I'm going to do an update to the Silent Shrimp Killer because we've got the Rainbow series that are coming up that are having issues with those tanks. And then I want to update and show you where these are. Now, one of the important things to note, though, is these tanks all have had rebirths in them. Not just the original when we first put them in, but the second generation and third generation. So that I'm really excited about. That tells you that my water parameters are where they need to be for them to be healthy enough to be doing breeding on their own. So your water is key. At the very minimum, what I would suggest is starting with something like the API test kit. It's your most economical solution. And then I also have a really good stick system I use. So I use the drops for some things, and then I use the stick to put it in there and then let it sit for 30 seconds. And then I read the readings on that for some of the other levels because it's a lot easier. And then I just log them both in one notepad so I can keep track of where my water is going. It's the easiest thing to do, and you need to get yourself a TDS meter. Everything you're going to buy is going to be super expensive, though, inexpensive. Like my TDS meter, that was like $9, and you can always shop if you're getting it from Amazon or something like that. Shop for the local deals that day, because pretty much TDS meter doesn't matter. It's all going to be reading numbers. And if you want, you can also, I rarely check the temperature of my tanks just because I leave like right now we're in winter, so I just turn my heat up. I shut my vents off in my bedroom because it gets too warm for me, but I want the tanks to remain consistent. So I keep a little bit higher because all the tanks are here in the front of the studio. But so now we've gotten you up to the water. So just be careful. Look at your local water board first, because they're all supposed to put out there what the water levels are. And it should tell you what your pH is coming out of your tap water. Now I know I've got commenters that can use straight up tap water or local water that comes out of a body of water. And I think that's amazing not to have to go through what I'm going. If I could do that, if I had well water, well, I guess it depends on your well, but I could imagine having well water or growing up on a farm or something like I did. We had well water and it tasted better than anything I've ever had since. That would probably be amazing. But remember, that's where the size of the tank makes a big difference. My bowls require a lot more attention, and if you're trying to foster this into someone who's going to love the hobby and maybe is not that much into the chemistry aspect of the hobby, that's where you don't want to put a small bowl with someone. You want to start them up with something that's like at least a 10-gallon. I will say my 10 gallons and my 20 gallons are much more level. The numbers are much more level because a 20 to 30% water change in this size of a tank is not that much compared to this size of a tank, the water volume itself. This is coming out a lot, is not really affecting anything in there, which is really kind of nice. And I will say one thing that's kind of funny. The last time I did a water change, and always the last tank I do is Blackfish because it's right there at the kitchen sink, so it's always the very last one. And I was I was pumping in the RO water after having changed it out, because I change it out, and then that's when I go in and clean the sides. And if I want to add any root fertilizer to any of the plants, I do that then. And if I want to move anything, like get a cutting off something, I do all that whenever I'm doing a water change. Well, there's no putting plants inside Blackfish because Blackfish is the plant. It's on the structure. And so I was doing the cleaning. And by the way, my shrimp all love eating the snails. So I'll go in there and push my finger down on the snail and kill it, and they're right behind me wanting to eat the snails. I mean, it's amazing. So they do love snails. I guess they're detecting the blood in the water is what I'm probably guessing, because they all come out when that happens. So the shrimp that I have in Blackfish are called sun-kissed. They are not bright orange. They're more of a dull orange, but they come with variations in the orange, and they're really kind of striking. And so, but they hide. Blackfish is all hollow inside of it. It's all hollow. And at most I'll see, maybe 7, maybe. I was pumping in the new RO water, and I was pumping it right at one of their favorite rocks that was elevated. And so it was washing off all the sand that was on it. And there were air bubbles in it because I was getting down to the bottom of the water. All the shrimp were out. All of them were out. They were all focused, hyper-focused on that rock because it was getting washed off, and they were just out there, and they were all out there. I was like, oh my gosh, there's way more shrimp in there than I thought. Because that one started with 5 when I ordered it. I was supposed to get 8, but 5 survived. And now there's at least maybe 17 or 18. It's had at least 2 births inside that tank. And so they were all out. And I was just like, oh my God, I was loving it. I don't know what got them out other than that one rock was getting washed off. So even when you're doing something as boring as a water change, your tanks can just amaze you. So that's one of the cool things I want to pass off on them. Okay, so now we've got your waters in there. Let's talk about your plants again. So basically, if you want something that, in my opinion, I have said this on so many videos that I have unboxed plant orders. You're not going to find a better deal than APF, because they will do a buy two, get one free sale. And I have said this in at least 3 dedicated videos about it. Be specific about what you're getting. So put your most important plant down first and its price point. And then you can see if it falls under that sale. If it does, you don't even have to look it up. You can just put your plant in there and then click another one, like add another one to it, that same variety, and then it should pop up right then. Congratulations, you qualify for the buy two, get one free. That means you click it again and one of them now is free. It's going to be the lowest price in your cart. It's going to be free though. So if you put a $15 plant and a $2 plant, you're going to pay for all those 15s and you're going to get the $2 ones for free. So to maximize your benefit, definitely use one price point. Now here's the negative. You have to get to, I think it's like $95 around there, or it may just be straight up $100. I know the last time I placed an order, it wasn't $100. It was like it was like 90 something. And it said I qualified for free shipping, because I'm not going to pay, I think the shipping was going to be close to $20. I'm not going to pay $20 for shipping if I can just add another 2 plants, and that may be $30, excuse me, and then get free shipping. So what I do is I go to their website, Aquarium Plants Factory, and I put in my price point. So I go in there and there's a way where it's a price point bar. And if I know the plant I want costs $9.99, I want to look at every plant between $7.99 and $11.99, okay? And that just pops up those. Then I go to my plant that I want and I start putting it in there. And whatever I don't have enough of, as far as the minimum order, I'll say, okay, well maybe, oh, that's interesting. That's how I found, oh no, I'm not going to talk about this tank. That's right. I'm not supposed to talk about it. That's how I will find other plants that I can put in a build where I get to experiment a little bit. So like I did it when I was doing the bowls. I got a cryptocoraline that's the variated colors. It's like brown and red and blah, blah, blah. And so I was able to add 3 of those. And then there's been some other plants I've tried that have failed. But as long as I'm only paying for 2 of them and I'm getting 1 for free and it's getting me free shipping, and once I back that free shipping out, okay, well then that's like, really I've only paid $80 for the order because I'm getting the free shipping now on top of it. So my go-to is APF first. I order from Boost, but I got really upset at Boost because I had a really good discount that I was awarded because I reached a certain level. And they were having a sale. So I put the plants in my cart at their sale pricing. And then I applied my coupon when I was finished. And my coupon wiped out all the sale pricing. So guess what? My price jumped up. My price jumped up $60. And I was like, oh, that is so wrong. So I'm not ordering from Boost any longer. If they're going to give you a reward and then charge you full price, that to me, that's not right. So I'm not ordering from them. I have ordered from just recently, and I did in the very beginning, Marcus fish tanks. on Amazon, because the one thing I like about Marcus and and generic brands, there's free shipping no matter what you get. So if you're just looking for 1 or 2 plants, you can go to Amazon. Just be really careful about the reviews. Remember what I said about Amazon? I only do 4 stars and up. So you can go in there and buy, like, I'm going to give you an example. Like Marcus I wanted some, ironically, dwarf hairgrass. So I bought some. Well, you can get 1 for $8, or guess what? You can get 3 for $15. So, okay, why would you buy 1 for $8 if you can get 3 of them for $15? So of course I got that. And then I found a Anubias on sale, which made it only $6 a piece, and it's an Anubias I don't have, and I wanted to plant it. And then there was another one that's from a generic that had a really good sale. So what I like about that is I go off the reviews, I go to their website to see if there's anything else I need, because I don't know all the plants. Sometimes I'll buy a plant because it looks cool and I don't realize how tall it gets. That goes back to the tank size again. Sometimes some of these tanks, like this one, comes in a long version or a tall version. I went with the long version, but you can get a tall version, which means you can put, you got it, taller plants inside your tanks. Now, where this really is a damper on, for me, my bowls, the tallest plant I could put in my bowl is this rosifolia, and she gets 4 inches tall. These are all cuttings. This one's getting closer to its actual size it's supposed to be. So you kind of need to know, like when I was doing the rainbow series, there's one plant that I chose because it's the only thing that had anything close to the color violet. Okay, when that plant arrived, it was already at its max height, which is at the top of the tank. So I kind of like went, oh no, I've made a big mistake. In ordering that plant because it's too big for my tank. So what I did is just cut it down and put some of it in the background of Adam and Eve. So usually when I have to buy something that's from APF and I have to get to my minimum $100 order, I'll end up maybe with 2 plant species that, you know, I'm going to put 1 here or 1 there, and then I just shove them into these tanks here. I cannot mess with Tree of Life because it's a specific style. And I cannot mess that up. Now, this one that has no name for you yet, yes, it just got its order. And so I'm trying out some plants in it just to see how they work. Because I can't talk about this one. You guys quit making me talk to you about it. Okay, so we're not going to talk about that. Okay, so now we have you to the plants. So remember about your plants. I already warned you about the substrate. Look at and on my videos, I always give you a screenshot that I have created specifically for you. I am going to hone this in like a history teacher. The screenshot shows you that plant, shows you that plant's name, shows you what it's paid for, and it tells you right on there specifically what its pH level is, the lighting, the growth rate, the height, all of it, how you propagate it. I put all that in one little box. And what's ironic is I just had a new subscriber that was watching a video, and he commented, it made me laugh. He commented that he hadn't gotten to the last of the video yet. And he commented, it'd be really good if you talked more about these individual plants. And then literally right after that, within 30 minutes, he goes, oh, I didn't make it all the way to the end of the video. It made me laugh because at the end of the video, sometimes embedded in the video, I'll put the screenshot. But generally, I'll wait and put it at the end. That way, if you guys want to do your own research, you can see exactly. You could take a screenshot of it, and you would know exactly what that plant is, what it's supposed to look like, its habit, and how you can grow it. And so I'll always put that in there for you guys, just so you'll know what's going into my tanks. But a lot of times, as time progresses, I will throw stuff in these tanks just because I want to see if it will grow. And I'm doing that because when I have the new series popping up, like Rainbow Series, it has very specific plants that are ordered just for that tank. And I'm going to give you a hint. Rainbow Series is a lot harder than I thought it would be, just because I'm trying to do specific colors, which it's really aren't working that well. So we may just have shrimp that are the color that they're supposed to be because the plants aren't doing it yet. So we'll see how that goes. So that gets you really the full circle here. You've got your plants in there, and then you just got to let your water cycle and don't force the issue with the water cycle. Don't start putting stuff in before you can. Some of the plants, yes. Rainbow Series, those tanks were actually a month old before, the water was a month old before the plants went in, and it's still in their cycling. These here, I think I had these between week 5 and week 6 for plants in all of these, except for the Rosa. And I put these plants in right at the beginning because I've already had really, really good luck up here with Boost and a couple of other Boosts in here. And it's Boost and it's the Rosa. And I've already had really, really good luck with the Rosa. And I knew if the Rosa was growing in gravel, it would definitely grow in here. So the last thing I really want to cover are the shrimp. Now, I am so proud of the work we're doing with our shrimp. Now, you know we had death in basically all 3 of these tanks up here. And so when I set Blackfish up, I ordered specifically what's called a blue velvet shrimp. It's kind of like this color right here. It's kind of this really lighter blue color. Now, the shrimp turned out to be very pale, almost like a blue, I would say they were more like a blue jelly. A blue jelly is just very, very, very pale. They were more like a blue jelly, very, very pale. They started giving birth, and they legit were having children that were not the parents' coloring whatsoever. We had shrimp that were coming out that were black and clear. They're clear with black markings, let me put it that way. Anywhere from spots to zebra stripes to full-on black. Now, yes, one of them is so black when you get really, really close up to it, you can see blue in it. But one of them is a rilly. And those of you who know what rillies are, it means there's a section in the middle of the body that's usually either clear or a different color. And so one of them was black on both ends and clear in the middle. So that told me that that breeder was only selling babies that turned out blue and probably weren't blue velvets to begin with. It was allowing other colors to muddy the gene pool. So we had the black ones, and then I had what I called ruby red spotted. So they were coming out with little red spots, basically always on the tail, sometimes on the body, a couple places on the body or at the head and the tail, sometimes a red spine. Okay, so Tree of Life got all the black ones. Eden got all the rubies. And then there was a third color, the ones I called the aqua. Very, very pale, pale, pale. So pale, it's between clear and an aqua color. And they're up here in turtle. Now, we've already had our another birthing out of the black. And the point we're at right now, because we're trying to cultivate our own color, is I'm on what's called culling watch. When you cull as a shrimp breeder, you are taking a newborn out of that tank before it can reproduce because it's not the color of the color you're trying to keep pure. So the interesting thing is this tank right here, bird on a wire, I purchased Blue Dreams, which is a darker blue. Like the tape that's up there. They're a very dark blue. Well, we've had 2 births out of there, and some of them came out completely clear. Completely clear, red spine, 2 red spines, 1 completely clear, and the second birth, the newer ones, have turned out to be blue like the parents. So what I did was, like just today, I found the clear one, and I get my little net, and then I put it in a white bowl, a white porcelain bowl, so I can see from the bottom of the bowl, everything is white inside there, so I can see the color really, really jump out. And then I use my magnifying glass back here, and along with a headset magnifier, because you got to get really close in to see them. And they both have lights on them. And I found one in there that's clear with no other color on it. And I was like, oh, it's almost like a ghost shrimp. And I thought, oh, okay, where to put this? And I debated and I thought, okay, I've been using my bowls for my shrimp that I'm just putting off. I'm just going to let them live in their life, and that's their color. That's what they're going to be. So the bowls are going to be a mismatch. And I thought about it, and I thought, okay, which one would I like to? I almost put it in this tank here because there's a color, which you won't know yet, is going to go in there. And I thought, no. I thought, okay, it's clear. The only other tank that I have clear in it is the black, because it's black with clear. This one is all clear. And I thought, okay, that could be interesting. Could we reproduce more clear with black? So that little baby just went into this tank right here, into the Tree of Life. The ones with the pink spines, one went up here into the red and one went into a bowl over here, because that's where I intend to put a lot of them. So we have aqua here, and we've already had a birth in there that I'm waiting to see if they're at least going to have some aqua color. And then I've had at least 2 births in the red. Now, I've seen some of the new babies that I can't tell their color yet, but I've seen that other generation where it had just a teensy bit of it. So I don't know if going forward, we're going to be able to really reproduce this unique color. It may not happen. In here, yes, I am so excited that in Tree of Life, I already have what one looks like to be a solid black, one that has a black head and then looks like zebra striping, and then another one that's very similar to that. So in this tank, the parents are pulling off the same color. Now, the good news is in my sun-kissed tank, which is blackfish, they're reproducing sun-kissed. So there's no other color in there, and I'm so thankful for that. So my big takeaway for you is when you're doing your shrimp, if you intend to do what I'm doing and you want to keep your color consistent, then you need to do your research on your shrimp person, because if they're just selling a color because it turned out that color, that is not a genetic purity whatsoever. I've done a lot of research. It takes several generations to keep a color intact. And if they're just throwing a bunch of shrimp in there together, oh, it turns out blue, then let's sell it as this. If it turns out orange, okay, let's sell it as this. That's what some of them do. I will never place an order for a Skittles. A Skittles is where they send you just multiple colors and they're all different. You'll see a lot of tanks online where they throw a lot of different colors together and they're all the same brand. That means they'll all breed together, and guess what? Eventually, they're all going to lose their colors. The older ones are going to die off. The younger ones are not going to carry that color going forward because it's not in their gene pool. They're going to revert back to their natural color, which is going to be a little kind of like opaque or a little brown tintish to it. Fortunately, right now, I haven't seen any of those in my tanks. I'm still seeing the color that's supposed to be there. So I'm a little hesitant about where I'm going to get my shrimp from my rainbow series, because I wanted those colors to be really vibrant. So I'm going to have to do more research about that. But that gets us, for me, to like what all my takeaways are. And I say one of the good things is when you're talking about your shrimp, the Neo are so much easier than the Caridinias. They're a lot more fussier and a lot harder to take care of, but they do have beautiful coloring if you can get your water parameters that strict. You can also find vendors that will sell 2 colors for basically the same price. Like, you don't need a lot of shrimp to start off with in a tank if you have a good selection of male and female. Mine have all bred successfully, and my water parameters are kind of at the top end of the spectrum as far as GH and KH, but I'm not having die off from the process. The only one I've had die that's been after the initial dying of the shrimp that I put into the tank was in here. I had a pregnant blue dream die, and I caught it right when it happened. I came from I didn't see it the day before, and the very next morning I found it and it was dead, and it was dead still pregnant. I'm not sure what had happened to that because all the other shrimp in there are fine. I don't know if going through its first pregnancy stressed it out. That's possible. I do know that when they first go through their first series, that it's not uncommon to have just very, very, very few shrimp. It's when as they mature, and they're oxygenating their eggs as much as they can, then you're probably going to have more babies come out of it as like that. And then, but the good news is I can pretty much count in all my tanks. In my sun-kissed, I was always counting 7 to 10 babies, and that's just what I could see. They're very, very, very hard to find when they're babies. Like in the Tree of Life, it's very, very difficult to find them. And of this first set, this first birthing in there, I know that I've seen 5. And every once in a while, it's so hard to find them in there because if they're on the bark, it doesn't look like it, but there's a lot of black spots on the bark in here. And if they're sitting still, I won't see them. The only time I can see them is if they're on the gravel crawling around. And I've only confirmed the colorings just of a few of them. In here, they're a little bit easier because they like to get on that front rock. And that's where I can see the dark blue. And that's how I found the clear ones, the ones that appeared clear versus all the other ones. So just know that getting the shrimp in there can add a whole different level of intensity into what's going on in your tank, other than what you're seeing your plants do. But like in Tree of Life, we had one of the Boost Aragon, which is the Boost Solandra that's in there. It bloomed. We had an underwater bloom, and I thought that was a miracle because that's really hard to see in a tank. That just means your water and your setup and your lighting is all working for that thing. And then another thing that I love about watching it in this tank particular, Tree of Life, is Boost will send out this super long, like 7 or 8 inch long runner. And it floats in the water, and it's like it's an anchoring system, and it is going to set up a new plant somewhere. And so once it settles, oh my gosh, then you won't see it because guess what? It adheres itself to the foundation. I actually saw this overnight. For 2 days, it sat floating, and then boom, it was anchored to the hardscape. And then that's where it will pop up a new plant. And I've seen it. There's little baby plants that have popped up that I didn't plant, that it's multiplied itself. And the same thing here. These were all 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and now you can see there's little offshoots coming up underneath it that are trying to multiply. So when you think about your plants specifically, especially if you're going to do something like Boost, make sure you allow room for that plant to emerge and to grow and to get really, really full. If I were going to show it to you on video, but I'm lazy, I'm just going to stay sitting down. My blackfish is another example of that because the plants are really close together and I like that look. So in some tanks, I put them really close together, and others I cluster them. And the one that you're not going to know about, I spread them all out because I wanted to give them their own individual space. So I hope this helps. I'll try to do like a little title sheet to pop up that says, ooh, tip number 1, blah, 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 blah. I'll try to do something like that. So until you see me in the air as your flight attendant, which you never know, may happen, or on the next video update, I'm wishing you guys nothing but light and love and tank on. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.